He is in the same country as one of his kids, but there's no plans to see old mate Harry, are there?
Exactly the way they are. That his son is a and they don't get along anymore. Even though the dad is actually...
Prince Harry believed the path back had finally opened. A private message had been delivered, preliminary conditions had been discussed, and the Duke was preparing himself for a limited return to royal service. Then William intervened. With one cold and unmistakable decision, the Prince of Wales shut the entire proposal down. Harry's reaction was instant and furious, but behind that rejection was a warning far more serious than a simple feud between brothers. Before we go deeper into what this really means for the royal family, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss a single update. Harry had formally asked to resume a controlled program of royal duties, starting with selected charitable appearances and temporary support. Royal duties meant official public service carried out for the crown, and his request mattered because it offered a route back into the institution he had left. Charles had allowed palace officials to explore the idea, though he had not approved a comeback. The king wanted strict limits, no political controversy, and close palace supervision. To him, the proposal offered a chance to repair family ties. To William, it carried a risk that could not be ignored. William stopped outside the meeting room and drew a slow breath. He knew the choice could end what remained of his relationship with his brother. Still, the prince entered, placed Harry's proposed schedule on the table, and pushed it toward the senior private secretary, the official responsible for managing the royal household's sensitive work. "No engagement will be approved under my authority," he said. The room fell silent. William ordered officials to halt every connected plan: scheduling, security assessments, briefings, and preparations for public appearances. The decision was cold and final. Harry learned the news during a tense telephone call. He rose from his chair, paced across the room, and demanded to know how William had gained the power to close a door Charles had not officially shut. Anger sharpened every word, but beneath it sat the fear that his brother had become the gatekeeper to his father. William felt no victory. A documented account of a recent private conversation had reached him, and its contents convinced the future king that Harry's return carried an immediate danger beyond past accusations. Something had been discussed, something had been promised. William believed the monarchy could not survive another arrangement built on divided authority. Charles had opened the discussion, but William had ended it. That act transformed a family dispute into a test of power inside the crown. To Harry, the decision feels like betrayal. To William, it feels like survival. And the difference between those two truths begins with everything the brothers have already lost. This is not simply a battle over ceremonies, uniforms, or palace balconies. It is a struggle between two brothers who remember the same childhood but carry completely different versions of its pain. Harry sees his proposed return as a final chance to reclaim purpose, dignity, and family. William sees it as a threat to the stability he has spent years rebuilding. Between them stands their father, weakened by regret and trapped between love and duty. Harry still believes royal service belongs to him. To the Duke, it means official work carried out on behalf of the monarch, including public events, charity visits, and support for national causes. He sees himself as Charles's son, a military veteran, and someone who can still help wounded soldiers and vulnerable families. Losing that role feels like losing the last clear link to the man he once was. William carries a different burden. The prince must protect the crown's future, while supporting Catherine and preparing his children for lives shaped by duty. He knows every family crisis can become a public storm, and every mistake can reach the next generation. For him, Harry's return is not only about forgiveness, it is about whether the monarchy can survive another period of divided loyalty. Harry sits alone after the rejection call, holding an old photograph of himself and William in uniform. For a few seconds, his anger disappears. Sadness takes its place. He remembers when they stood together, faced crowds together, and believed nothing could divide them. Then the Duke turns the picture face down, as if even that memory has become too painful to face. William remembers those same years, but the memories cut differently. He once believed protecting Harry meant standing beside him. Now the future king wonders when that duty became protecting the monarchy from his brother. The thought brings no relief. It only deepens the sense that every choice now demands a personal sacrifice. Charles reads a short written summary of the decision, removes his glasses, and places the page on the desk. The king says nothing. He understands Harry's need to feel useful, and he understands William's fear of chaos. Yet the monarch cannot fully defend either son without wounding the other. Catherine had warned William against acting in anger. The princess did not demand Harry's return, but she feared a total refusal would harden the family split beyond repair. Her concern mattered because she knew William was not only closing an official path, he might also be closing an emotional one. Harry wanted a visible role with purpose and recognition. William would only consider private reconciliation, with no position, no independent royal platform, and no promise of restored status. The rejection may have been delivered in a single sentence, but its true origin lies in a private royal gathering, where one conversation changed the future before Harry even knew the door was closing. Weeks before William blocked the return, the palace had been moving in a different direction. Advisors were quietly examining dates. Security officials were reviewing options. Even Charles had begun to imagine a carefully controlled appearance beside his younger son. Then came one private dinner at Clarence's house, and one conversation that shattered the fragile plan. By the time the guests left, William no longer believed Harry wanted only to serve. He believed his brother expected the monarchy to bend around him. Harry's representatives had already offered several limits. The Duke would follow a temporary royal schedule, avoid commercial promotion during official visits, and appear only at events approved by the monarch. A royal schedule meant the official program of duties arranged by palace staff, and the offer mattered because it seemed to remove the fear of Harry acting independently while representing the crown. Senior aides still had doubts, but they were not united against him. Some believed a single military event could test the arrangement without creating a permanent role. That first appearance mattered because Harry's connection to veterans remained one of the few areas where his public service and personal identity still seemed naturally joined. Charles allowed the discussion to continue. The king saw a narrow path toward healing, but William saw conditions gathering beneath the surface. His concern became real at a private dinner inside Clarence's house, the monarch's London residence, where the three men met without a large group of advisors controlling every word. Harry spoke carefully at first. Then the Duke made his position clear. Any return, he said, must include public recognition of his royal status, guaranteed security, and freedom to continue selected outside projects. He believed those protections were necessary because he would not re-enter a system that demanded obedience while leaving his family exposed. William slowly placed his glass on the table. The prince said nothing until Harry added that he would not come back as a guest who can be dismissed whenever convenient. Charles looked from one son to the other. The silence that followed carried more force than an argument. William heard a demand for a hybrid royal position, public authority, without full palace control. The future king had already watched trust collapse once, and he refused to build a new arrangement on divided loyalties. His disappointment hardened into quiet resolve. Harry left believing he had defended his dignity. William remained with Charles and warned that the proposal would force the crown to choose between family peace and institutional control. The king did not dismiss the warning. He only asked for more time, hoping his younger son might soften. A documented summary later reached senior aides, but one sentence was missing. Harry had privately told his father that serving under William's authority would be almost impossible. When the prince learned that objection still stood, delay ended. The dinner created the fracture, but it did not produce the final explosion. That came when Harry demanded to hear the rejection directly from the brother who had issued it. Harry could have accepted a formal palace statement. He could have allowed lawyers, aides, or private secretaries to carry the message. Instead, he demanded to confront William himself. What followed was not a polished royal discussion. It was years of buried anger, compressed into one private meeting, two brothers standing only feet apart, one demanding the right to return, and the other refusing to gamble the crown's stability on promises he no longer trusted. Harry refused to let officials speak for him. The Duke demanded a direct meeting with no press officers, legal advisors, or communications staff present. A private secretary is the senior aide who manages a royal figure's official work, but neither brother wanted one in the room. William agreed, because he knew the dispute had grown too personal to be handled through polished messages. The closed door changed everything. They met in a small sitting room on royal property, with one security officer waiting outside, and no aide close enough to interrupt. Harry entered without offering his hand. William remained standing, his face controlled, as if even sitting down might weaken the boundary he had come to defend. "Did you stop it?" Harry asked. "Yes," William replied. Harry pulled a chair away from the table but refused to sit. The Duke accused his brother of using Charles's vulnerability to seize power before inheriting the crown. He said William had turned reconciliation into submission, demanding obedience before offering even the smallest sign of trust. William did not raise his voice. The prince said royal duty could not be resumed whenever it became emotionally or publicly useful. Trust had to come before titles, security guarantees, public appearances, or ceremonial recognition. Without that trust, every event would carry the danger of another conflict breaking open before the world. Harry struck back. He said his brother had already judged him guilty and had designed conditions no one could meet. William then closed the folder containing the proposed engagement plan and moved it away, ending any illusion that negotiation remained alive. The warning came next. William said a documented briefing had shown that members of Harry's team were already discussing how the return could be presented to international media before palace approval existed. The Duke denied authorizing a campaign, but he admitted conversations about public messaging had taken place. That admission landed hard. Harry insisted those talks were practical, not threatening. William heard confirmation that the comeback could create a rival royal narrative from its first day. The future king no longer saw a simple return. He saw two centers of power competing inside one monarchy. "You never wanted me back," Harry said. William finally let the pain show. He answered that he wanted his brother back, but not a separate royal operation working from within the crown. Harry left believing William had stolen his future, while the palace prepared to reveal why the prince's word now carried enough force to stop a royal return completely. William did not need to wear the crown to exercise its power. Behind palace doors, his authority had already expanded through briefings, security decisions, family strategy, and the growing reality that every major choice now had to survive the future king's scrutiny. Harry saw a brother interfering in his life. Senior courtiers saw something else. A Prince of Wales acting as the monarchy's final protective barrier when the king's heart threatened to overrule his judgment. William had become central to long-term royal planning. The Prince of Wales, the title given to the monarch's direct heir, now influenced public engagements, security concerns, reputational risks, and choices that could shape the crown beyond Charles's reign. That power mattered, because Harry's return would not end with one appearance. It could become an arrangement William would eventually inherit and be forced to manage. Charles sat alone after receiving separate accounts of the confrontation. The king placed William's summary beside Harry's letter and remained still. One son demanded a path back. The other believed that path could damage everything they were trying to protect. Supporting either man meant wounding the other. Charles called William into a private audience. a personal meeting with the monarch where sensitive family and royal matters could be discussed, without a wider group present. The king asked whether a 6-month trial was still possible. He suggested one limited program, strict supervision, and no promise of permanence. William refused. The prince said Harry could not return to official duty until he rebuilt trust privately, without cameras, public status, or a competing platform. He explained that royal service was not a test that could be paused whenever tension returned. One failed attempt could create another cycle of reunion, conflict, disclosure, and denial. Charles felt the warning deeply. The king reminded his elder son that family time was not unlimited. His voice softened as he admitted that rejecting Harry completely might destroy his final chance to repair their bond. William understood the pain, but he would not separate private love from public consequence. The future king had seen how personal choices could become national crises within hours. He believed the monarchy could survive sorrow. It could not survive confusion over who spoke with authority. Senior security and communications officials strengthened his position. Their written assessments warned that an immediate return could create unclear command, competing public messages, and pressure around protection arrangements. William was no longer standing alone. Charles finally made his choice. The monarch approved a formal pause on every proposal connected to Harry's royal duties, while leaving private family contact open. He did not ban his younger son from his life. He refused to restore his public role. William knew the decision would make him appear merciless. He accepted that cost. The brother may have delivered the refusal, but the father's silence confirms it. And that silence unleashes consequences no palace strategy can fully contain. Harry had expected resistance from William. What he had not expected was Charles's refusal to intervene. When confirmation arrived that the king would not reverse the decision, anger gave way to something deeper: abandonment. The Duke had spent weeks imagining a return that might restore his purpose and reopen his family's circle. Now, every proposed engagement vanished at once, leaving him not only outside royal duty, but confronted by the possibility that the monarchy had learned to continue without him. Harry read the short personal message twice. Charles had chosen gentle words, but the meaning was brutal. The preliminary engagement calendar was withdrawn. Security planning was halted. Palace briefings were cancelled, and no further discussion of official duties would continue. An official program meant the schedule of public work carried out for the crown, and Harry had now been removed from that path completely. The boundary became painfully clear. Harry could speak privately with his father and attend certain family events by invitation, but he would not represent the monarchy, receive royal assignments, or connect palace service to his outside work. He was still a son. He was no longer part of the machine. Harry gripped the phone, placed it sharply on the table, and walked into another room before anyone could see his expression break. The Duke believed William had redefined him in a single move from a working prince, seeking a route home, into a distant relative whose place depended on permission. Anger soon turned inward. Harry replayed the Clarence House dinner and wondered whether his own demands had handed William the weapon he needed. The guaranteed security, public status, and freedom to continue outside projects had felt like protection. Now they looked like the exact conditions that destroyed the plan. Meghan listened as he explained what Charles had decided. She told him not to beg for a role that could be granted and removed by people who did not trust him. Yet she also saw how deeply the rejection had wounded him. This was not only about status, it was about belonging. Advisors quickly prepared a forceful public statement, accusing the palace of blocking reconciliation. Harry approved the first draft, then stopped before it could be released. The Duke read the paragraph attacking William personally, paused, and deleted it. That restraint changed the temperature. William was informed through a private communications briefing that no hostile statement had appeared. The prince expected anger, accusation, and another public battle. Instead, silence followed. For the first time since the confrontation, he wondered whether Harry had finally understood the seriousness of the boundary. Harry had lost the role he wanted, yet by refusing to strike back, he created one last chance to speak, not as a prince demanding access, but as a brother facing the truth. There were no advisors listening, no prepared statements, and no palace language to soften the damage. Days after the rejection, William called Harry directly. This was not an invitation back, and it was not an apology. It was a conversation between two men who had spent years speaking through interviews, letters, representatives, and silence. For once, neither could hide behind the institution. What changed that night was not the decision, but the meaning each brother attached to it. William made the call after learning that Harry had stopped the retaliatory statement. The prince took that restraint as a sign that a private conversation might still be possible. No aides listened, no official notes were taken, and no promise was made that Charles would ever hear what passed between them. For one night, the royal household, the network of staff and offices supporting the monarchy, stood outside the conversation. "The decision stands," William said. "Then tell me why you called," Harry answered. William paused. The future king admitted that he did not want one refusal to become permanent hatred. He could defend the boundary and still fear what it might cost. That truth caught Harry off guard, because he had expected another warning, not an admission. Harry explained that returning to duty had never been only about status. The Duke wanted proof that his service, military identity, and place within the family had not been erased. He believed one official role might show that years of conflict had not removed every part of who he once was. William listened, then gave his own confession. The prince said every proposal involving Harry now triggered fear. Fear of private words becoming public, competing stories reaching the press, family pressure growing, and instability touching Catherine and the children. His concern was not one event. It was the cycle he believed might begin again. Harry fell quiet. William finally stated the true boundary. Private reconciliation remained possible, but official restoration could not be the first step. Trust had to be rebuilt before public duty could carry any meaning. The crown could not be used as proof that the family had healed when the family had not healed at all. Harry admitted that he had entered the process expecting guarantees before trust existed. The Duke did not apologize for leaving, but he accepted that he had tried to negotiate belonging as though it were a contract. Neither brother offered forgiveness. Still, Harry's voice softened, and William stopped speaking like the guardian of an institution long enough to acknowledge his brother's loneliness. When the call ended, William remained seated with the phone in his hand. Across the distance, Harry did the same. Neither immediately contacted an advisor. The brothers finally spoke without an audience, but the world was already preparing to judge the decision through headlines, crowds, and one image that would capture the monarchy's new divide. By sunrise, the private decision belonged to the world. Broadcasters framed it as a battle for control. Newspapers turned brother against brother across their front pages. Supporters of Harry called the rejection cruel. Defenders of William called it necessary. Yet the most powerful public moment did not come from a commentator or palace statement. It came outside Buckingham Palace, where two groups gathered beneath the same gates, one demanding reconciliation, the other insisting the crown must never retreat. The palace released a short statement, confirming that Harry would not resume official royal duties, and that no temporary program was being prepared. Official royal duties meant public work performed on behalf of the monarch, and the statement mattered because it ended every claim that a limited comeback was still being discussed. It also described the Duke as a valued member of the family, drawing a careful line between private affection and public service. Television coverage seized on William's role. Anchors described the decision as the clearest sign yet that the prince was already shaping the monarchy's future. To some viewers, he looked firm and prepared. To others, the future king appeared cold, powerful, and willing to sacrifice his brother to protect the crown. One national newspaper made the split impossible to ignore. Its front page placed Harry on one side and William on the other, beneath the words, "The door is closed." In a single image, years of private pain became a public symbol of separation. The crowd outside Buckingham Palace soon reflected the same divide. One supporter held a handwritten sign reading, "Let the brothers heal." Several feet away, another person raised a Union flag and praised William's choice as an act of protection. The monarchy had become the stage for two completely different ideas of loyalty. Charles watched the footage during his morning briefing. The king saw both signs appear in the same frame and asked for the screen to be turned off. He understood that the public was judging his sons, but he also knew his silence had helped create the moment now unfolding beyond the palace gates. Harry watched a broadcaster describe his return as defeated. The Duke's jaw tightened, yet he refused requests for an interview. He would not attack the palace statement or turn the private call with William into another public weapon. William faced the same pressure hours later. During a scheduled engagement, someone behind the barrier called out, asking whether Harry would ever return. The prince paused, then continued without comment. Their silence revealed more than any statement could. The private call had not changed the decision, but it had changed their conduct. The headlines declared a winner and a loser, but the true verdict would be measured not by public applause, it would be measured by what each brother accepted when the noise finally faded. In the end, there was no dramatic reversal, no last-minute command from Charles, and no ceremonial return. William's decision remained in force. Harry would not resume royal duties, and the monarchy would not redesign its structure to create a place for him. Yet the final outcome was not simply rejection. It forced both brothers to surrender an illusion. Harry could no longer believe he might return without rebuilding trust, and William could no longer pretend protecting the crown carried no human cost. The palace permanently closed the current proposal. Every preliminary plan ended, and no replacement arrangement was offered. Royal duties meant official public service performed on behalf of the monarch, and the final decision made one truth unmistakable. Harry could remain part of the family, but he would no longer represent the institution. Harry accepted the answer without launching another campaign. The Duke decided not to submit a fresh request, challenge the palace publicly, or demand reinstatement. His future service would continue through causes outside the official monarchy, where no royal approval could define his purpose. Harry opened a drawer and removed the proposed engagement schedule. He looked over the dates one final time, remembering how close each event had once seemed. Then the Duke placed the pages inside a box and closed it. The gesture carried no triumph. It marked the end of the return he had imagined. Anger remained, but it no longer had anywhere to go. Harry understood that fury could not rebuild trust, recover his former position, or force William to see duty through his eyes. Walking away became painful, but it also became necessary. William felt no victory either. The prince told Catherine that the decision had been necessary, not triumphant. She took his hand, as he admitted that protecting the monarchy had cost him the relationship he once believed would survive everything. Catherine stayed beside him, knowing responsibility had not spared him from grief. Charles reached the same conclusion. The king accepted that he could not repair the family by creating an official role the crown could not sustain. Through a private message, he assured Harry of his love, while offering no promise of restored duty. The monarch finally separated fatherhood from royal authority. William had not shut Harry out of the family completely. He had shut down the idea that royal service could become the first step toward reconciliation. From that moment, family contact and institutional duty became two different paths. The crisis established a harder future for the monarchy. Clear accountability, one chain of command, and no hybrid role combining private freedom with official authority. Harry chose independence. William chose responsibility. The Crown chose stability. For the first time, all three choices pointed in the same direction. The door to royal duty closed without reopening. But beyond it, the brothers were finally left to decide whether they could become family again without asking the monarchy to save them. Thanks for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and we will see you in next one.